Welcome to the podcast, Leatitia.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me. I'm very honored.
It's a pleasure having you. And I know you have like a really amazing story, long story, difficult story to tell on your own fertility journey. And I love hearing these stories, especially when it brings you to doing the work that you're doing today and helping so many other people. So I'd love for you to share your story and how you got through it and eventually conceived and had your kids.
Yeah, that'll be my pleasure to share. Well, basically, yes, it was a long journey. Let's put it that way. It took me 4 years to conceive. I didn't have any idea that would take that long. I just basically I was on a pill for a very long time, which was looking back now, I know it was a big mistake because I then was diagnosed with adenomyosis. So that was, we're talking in my early 30s when I thought, oh, let's start planning for what I knew I wanted all my life, which is having children. I didn't meet the right partner when in my 20s. So, it's very common to start really family around 30. So I thought, okay, let's stop the pill. But then,
Yeah.
as we know now, when you stop the pill, you realize after if you had issues, this is when it all comes, times, 4, 5, 10. So basically, I realized, long story short, I did some tests. I had very painful, heavy periods. I realized I did the test that told me I had adenomyosis, which is kind of the sister of endometriosis. And they told me at that point that fertility could be an issue. Um, they also gave me medication, and I'm really not good with medication. I'm not good with all medical side of things. So anyway, I still took them, but then I thought, okay, I'm still going to try, and it might just not affect me. I don't know if that's what affected me, but that's just to give a bit of idea of what was in the background when I started. And then I just thought, I didn't know anything about what conception. I mean, now I know how it's so much more than just the sperm meet the egg, and especially for any woman out there, going through fertility issues, we know that it's so much more complex. You need to create really the right environment. So I can talk about that after. But basically, at the time, I just thought, I'll give it a try. And actually, we get pregnant very easily within 6 months. At that point, I was 34, I think, or 35. And everything was very happy days. I made the special announcement to my partner on his birthday. Everything was amazing. But I suffered from my first ectopic pregnancy. So I found that maybe a week or 2 weeks after when I started to bleed. And that's when the story really started to get complicated. So altogether, I had 3 ectopic throughout the 4 years, and I had one early loss. So I won't go through all of them, but basically, it's pretty much every year I had a loss. After the second loss, that's when I started to do all the tests. I mentioned also that ectopic pregnancy is very dangerous. So when it happened, thankfully, I managed to keep my fertility tube, my fallopian tubes. But I was treated with medication, and that also had a knock-on effect on my health. So as if it wasn't bad enough to have suffered a loss, also my health suffered. The medication is very, very strong, and I had to have 2 dosage. I think they call it, it's like a chemo treatment, actually. It kills all your cells. So you can just imagine. Then after that, the knock-on effect was gut health issues, mental, I suppose, anxiety, panic attacks, like mental issues. I also suffered like skin issues. I found that after
That's a very
that.
strong treatment.
Sorry?
That's a very strong treatment.
Yeah, it's very strong. I mean, it depletes you from all your folate, inside your body. But I don't think it's just that. I think it's so much more. If you
Yeah.
imagine you kill all your good you talk a lot about the gut health. So obviously, you know, it's got all this effect on your health, but also on your conception, on your fertility health. So this is it actually got worse from worse. And then after my first loss, my second loss, sorry, the second wasn't the ectopic, was an early chemical pregnancy. That's when I started to really look into my symptoms and thought, okay, I started to look into naturopathy and acupuncture and uh, to all the women out there, I know you talk about that a lot, but I can only highly recommend. I mean, it goes hand in hand to me, the importance of the gut health and on, the overall health of your body, not just the supplement we take for fertility, but everything around the digestion, around the blood flow, all of that. So it really helped me, but clearly it wasn't enough because then I suffered another ectopic. And when I started to do all the medical tests, everything came back pretty normal, apart from the fact that they said my egg reserve was low. They said that I was approaching 40, so the only option for me would be IVF. Um, and I have nothing against IVF, but I just don't like how it's thrown at the only option without actually looking at anything else. They never said, "Oh, food is very important." Food is very like important into your fertility, your mental health, your emotions, your mindset, everything that I now know. None of the doctors would talk about that. So I didn't go for IVF because it didn't feel right to me at the time. And also, I was told that you had more chances of having ectopic. So I thought, well, um, I don't see how. And, I think like you have to prepare yourself mentally to do that. And I thought it would be at some point maybe a plan B. But I was really trying to find the root of the issues. Although I was told it's unexplained, that big thing.
With IVF, more chances for ectopic, you said?
Yes, that's what they told me when I went for IVF. One of those meetings to discuss it with the clinic. They said the chance.
That's strange.
Yeah.
Because they usually put it into they implant it. It's actually IVF started out to say the reason why it started was really for people who didn't have fallopian tubes
Mm.
because they would transfer it right into the uterus. So I've never heard anything about an ectopic pregnancy with IVF.
Yeah, I suppose like ectopic is not just the fallopian tube though. It's outside of the womb, but it doesn't have to be just a fallopian tube. But they told me I don't have the exact numbers, but at the time they gave me the rates of ectopic with the IVF treatments. Maybe that's not the exactly accurate thing, but anyway, it didn't convince me at the time. So I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
that
yeah,
along
yeah.
with all the medication and everything to take, I thought, okay. And also, I didn't have any medical specific issue. I had an unexplained diagnosis. So to me, I felt that there was more to it, but that wasn't
But that's so
medical.
strange too to me, because you had adenomyosis,
Yes, I had
so
that.
that's an explanation.
Yeah, it is an inflammation. You're right. But when I did all the testing in terms of my hormones, my tubes were tested. My yeah, the egg reserve was low. But that's what they came up. They said, well, you can get pregnant. That was the answer as well. Well, you can get pregnant as you got pregnant 4 times. Well, not 4 times at the time; it was twice. So there's no reason why you can't get pregnant, and there's nothing we
Mm.
can do for the ectopic. So let alone when I had three, I was like, well, surely. And it's always been on the left side as well. When you look more on the spiritual side, the feminine side. So I don't know if that's anything to do with that, but I obviously
Yeah.
digged more into it. I also spoke to a baby spirit, person that spoke to the baby spirit, and I learned so much more about the divine timing and things like that. So,
Oh, so talk to us about all of it. Don't leave anything
all
out because
right.
that's very interesting.
Um, Well, when I went through those losses, I obviously, as I said to you, I did the physical side. All my symptoms were gone in terms of like my skin issue, my all of a sudden eczema, my asthma that came out of nowhere after the drugs, the digestion issue, all of that was cleared. So I was, in a good place physically. But as I said, I had another ectopic, and then that's when during that time, I also turned to angelic Reiki. I came across that, the universe got funny way of showing things. I kept hearing Reiki,
Mhm.
Reiki. I was like, what is Reiki? um, and long story short, I met my healer now that I've known for over 10 years, who trained into angelic Reiki, and I started looking into this. I always believe in something more than, the universe and all of the spiritual side. But that really like helped me as well to feel. Also, I lost my mom before I went through all of these fertility issues. So, you know,
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
thank
that.
you. So I felt like I had kind of a spiritual awakening at the time. Um, and so when I turned to baby spirit, I don't know how you call them, but I suppose,
Spirit baby.
yeah,
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 yeah.
the
Spirit baby
person that does it, like,
communication and medium.
I don't know
Yeah.
how you call them, mediums, I suppose. Um,
Yeah.
it wasn't something that was woohoo for me. For me, that was a normal, natural thing. I just wanted to know more. So I thought, is there any other way that I can actually understand what's coming up in terms of the baby spirits? So what I was told at the time was that the first loss wasn't what the baby, the soul of the baby was never meant to come to earth. It was meant to help me grow spiritually. And so it was part of my path, basically. It was growth. And I suppose with time as well, I suppose I realized that all this journey, although it's very hard to understand once you are in it, wasn't happening to me. It was happening for me, um, in a way that helped me to understand about, as I said, nutrition. It changed my way of doing my mindset. That changed how I learn about all the mindset stuff. So that was part of it. And then I also spoke to my daughter that now I have, with me, and that was part of the losses as well. And she said I wasn't ready yet, and also it was about her. She was meant to come at a specific time, and it was not yet her time. um, but it was, reassurance within that for me, because I was like, I'm not going crazy. I am going to become a mom. My baby is out there. It's just that
Yeah.
when it happens, you've got so much fear, and you're like, I've always known deep down I'm going to be a mom. This is like something I've always. And also, when I lost my mom, I was like, I need to have that bond with. I always believed I'd be having a daughter as well. And it's like I need to have that same bond I had with my mom, and I just can't accept that I'm not going to have one. It was so ingrained inside me. So when that happened, I thought, I'm not completely crazy. Then it is happening. It's just I
Yeah.
didn't understand why I had to go through all of that, and I guess it gave me some kind of I can't say closure, but like explanation.
Like hope also. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I wish I knew it before in a way, because I was like, well, when you are in that spiral, you just, my mistake going through all the four losses is that I never stopped. I always wanted to keep going. I'm kind of that person that need to find solution. I need to keep going. And so I never grieved, I suppose. I never, until I came to the fourth loss. And that's when I think I had a, I had a moment where I thought, okay, I have to stop everything. So going through those losses, coming to the third ectopic, I remember being in that hospital corridor, and I was very lucky because those drugs only happened the first time, and then I know some women go from like tube ruptures, and they have to go for surgery, and it can be very life threatening. So I'm very blessed that I didn't have that, and my fallopian tubes remained, and I had to go through expectant management on the next two ectopic, which means you let your body just process the loss and you know um, remove the pregnancy, basically. Um, but after the third one, the doctor in that hospital said, okay, I've got a surgery in half an hour. Look at his watch. Let's go and remove your tube. And I was a bit shocked because my my hormone levels were really low, and so when it's that almost non-existent, you technically not in danger or anything. So you're supposed to do expectant management. So I was like, why do I have to do that? And his answer was very uncompassionate. Was, well, you've had 3 ectopic. How many more do you want? And I was,
Wow.
yeah. Um, that was shocking to me because I was like, that's not really a way for me to convince me to do it or even to show me compassion. I'm going through a loss. But he was exactly his words. I mean, it's stuck in my mind. And I said, listen, I've asked the question. In a way, I took back my control because I was giving my power away through all those years. And I was so happy to take a bit back of my control and say, listen, is my health in danger? Is any, what are the reasons for doing that? And he said, is to prevent another ectopic. And I'm like, okay, I need to take the night to think about this, which I did. And he said, well, we need to do it while you're going through it because we can't remove your tube after. Again, I don't know if that's true, but that was the answer.
That makes no sense to me.
I know.
That's crazy.
Me neither, but as it was really his answer. He said we have to do it while you're going through the next few days. We can't do it whilst you don't have, you're not pregnant anymore. So I'm like, okay. Anyway, talked to work with my partner, and I really followed my gut on that one. And this is what was the pivot, the kind of the moment where I decided, okay, I need to trust myself again, and I decided not to do it. I said to my partner, maybe we'll talk about IVF, maybe we'll do something else. But for now, I think we need to give it one more shot. And long story short, again, the following year, the exact same month, I believe, the exact same month, I fell naturally pregnant on the same tube that was going to be removed, which is my left tube. I didn't do anything else physically from the third ectopic to the natural pregnancy, except from then working a lot on my mindset, on my energy, and on the emotion processing, which this is what I've learned and now I teach my clients. And so, so after that loss and that talk with the doctor and not doing it, we decided to take a break. And that's what I mean by take back my power, suppose, and also just stopping the race. I felt like I was on a race on the forget
Yeah.
marathon. It was like, and I was spiraling out of control in terms of who I was, in terms of like, well, social life didn't exist anymore. My partnership, my relationship was going just me being either crying or being completely obsessive or, just talk about, it was just all we talked about, as I'm sure a lot of women can relate, was conception and stress. And my body was in complete fear, fight or flight mode, like survival, basically.
Hmm.
So I said,
Yeah.
if we're going to give it one more try, I want to give it my best shot. And I can't carry on that way because if another loss happened, I don't know where I will be at that point. So we need to get back to ourselves. And that's what we did. Yeah.
So that was when you took the year off and then you conceived naturally?
Yes. I mean, it was always
Did
trying
you
naturally anyway, but we took about
Mhm.
so I got pregnant in October, and the previous loss was also October. So we started again as I think, we started again in July. So I wouldn't say it was a year, but 9 months approximately to completely switch off from conception. And I'm talking not even trying purposely, not
Yeah.
talking about it, but come back to the basics, which was joy, connection, self love, but
Yeah.
also so much
Yes.
emotional processing because when you stop and you're like, this is when everything comes back, and you're like, actually, I didn't stop. I didn't want to face those emotions, and I didn't want to because I thought if I would, I wouldn't be strong enough and I wouldn't be able to carry on. So I had to carry on. Um, but I've learned that it's not about not slowing down. It's not about perfection or like being strong. It's actually about processing as well, and let your body, your mind process everything in order to be actually stronger in that sense. What I mean by strong is give your body the best chance to thrive. um so yeah.
The way I see it is we need to digest emotions just like we digest food.
Yeah.
And if we
Yeah.
don't fully digest it, it sits there. It really sits there and it drains our energy, like overall. How did you feel that it was the left side tube? Did you feel like ovulation on the left side
Yeah, they
that
told me.
month
So every time,
before you conceived?
yeah, I do feel it, to be honest, even to this day now, for some reason. It's something about the
Yeah.
left side that always ovulate, and I do feel the sensation. But even though as you get, yeah, they're able to say that every single time. So I would, once you have one ectopic, you have to go for your test, for your scan, intra scan, around 7, 8 weeks, and they're always able to say you've ovulated, you've conceived from that side. So at that time, I didn't always,
That's fascinating.
yeah, I didn't always know at the time. I didn't always feel it, but now I must say I do feel the physical sensation of the left side, which is very funny. I don't know if there's a spiritual. There was another side to it. Then why is it always on the left, or is it just I'm always ovulate on the left?
It's that yin energy, which it seems kind of like a sometimes the universe gives you hints and your body gives you
Mm,
hints on what it is that you need to focus on. And it really is symbolic. It's kind of like this reflection of what's happening, not just in your body, but also your psyche. And I think it's just really interesting. I always talk about how being in the fight or flight really shuts down
yeah,
creativity. It shuts down regeneration. It shuts down joy. I mean, because you can't afford to do anything. You're kind of on backup reserves. And it's like everything has to shut down. Nothing else can matter at this
yeah,
moment. And to have that state become chronic is extremely taxing on the
yeah.
body.
And I was very much in my masculine side, having to be productive, having to tick off the box. What's next? What did I not try yet? What would the next thing I can try? That kind of mental
Yeah.
state, as well as the despair and the sadness and everything. But yeah, you're right. It's then opened up so much for me. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not easy, but for me,
Yeah. It's not.
it's very, that's why people actually sometimes avoid it. But for me, feeling is part of healing. And if
Mm.
you don't feel your emotions, I practice now, EFT tapping, which helps me a lot. I mean, I've now trained into it, and I was the first skeptical. It's one method out. You could work for some people in the sense that if you believe it, but for me, it works 100% with everyone I do it with. But what I like about it is that it gives you that space where you actually bring awareness to that emotion. You can even talk to your
Mhm.
emotions. You see where it's left in your body, and as it starts to shift, you moves from like being in your chest to your throat or anywhere. And this is when you really, even to clients that don't especially know about it, they realize that it's all energy, and it all really, if you leave it, as we said, it just will stay stuck in your body, and it creates all kind of things. And also, how much can you keep out, can you keep in as well? Eventually, it's floating because there's too much that you've held in all this time. If you've got one loss, two loss, or any other traumatic experience, to be honest. I think for me the key it's very much to slow down and process, um, take the time. And yeah, it's conflictual when it comes to conception, because we are in one side wanting to hurry and be pregnant and try again, but on the other side, funny enough, slowing down is beneficial for us. That's what I believe it anyway.
It absolutely is. I think it's just beneficial overall. You can kind of like take whatever it is and kind of insert, the topic and the topic can be many different things. And in this case, we're talking about
Yeah,
fertility,
I
but
agree.
there's many different topics. Sometimes it's relationships, sometimes it's jobs, or obviously jobs are not as important, but sometimes it is relationship. I mean, when you're younger and you're trying to meet your partner, it could be also the center
Yeah,
focus. And so sometimes over trying can get in the way of that flow and that natural ability to connect with or align with who is right for you.
yeah,
So it's kind of like that flow in general in life. It blankets on everything
yeah,
ultimately. And it's kind of like that trust and that knowing, because as soon as we shut down, we also shut down our ability to connect with our wisdom
mm,
and our
yes,
inner
yes,
guide.
yeah.
And so that's incredibly important, and it's a huge asset to the journey.
Yeah, for me, 100% that. I mean, you're speaking my mind, but it's that inner connection. That's one of the first thing I want to teach the woman I speak to, but also that I went through myself. And as you said, what I like about, in a way, and what I said earlier about this happening for me, is because everything I've learned, whether it is how I eat, whether it is what I put in my body, the way you nourish your mind and nourish your body with your thoughts, your belief, everything, whether your energy, your processing emotion, all of that, it's for lifetime. It's something that I've
Yes.
learned for everything, even as obviously as a mom as well, as we know, motherhood is another story. But it's like it's for everything, and that's what I want to teach my child as well. We don't learn about mindset or emotions, about nervous system. Maybe we learn in some places, but I've not learned that at school. So it's a lifetime thing, and that inner
Mm.
wisdom, it's definitely also something. I mean, I haven't talked about that, but also worked with my womb during that time, those 9 months, reconnected to my womb, but also,
So interesting that you took 9 months off.
yeah, isn't it? Actually, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many little signs, but yeah, the womb healing,
It's like a rebirthing of your own energy.
yeah, yeah, it is. And the womb healing was also very powerful. I mean, as women, we store so much emotion and trauma and even ancestral things inside our womb. And that healing process was very transformative as well, very powerful. Um, so, yeah, but coming back to what you said, the inner wisdom, we get so much information out there, don't we, in terms of fertility. I know it applies to everything, but in this case, we're talking about that. So, like, do this, do that, try this, or and we all are
Mhm.
unique. We are. It is no one size fits all. So if you don't come back to inner wisdom, then you
Right.
just, in a way, you don't know what's right for you. But when you come back to your inner knowing, your power, and you will know that gut feeling, that thing, that soul telling you what it is that is right for you, your inner, your own soul, basically, your higher self, or however you want to call it. But for me, that's how I call it. Um, that's where it should even start, right? And that's why then when I realized, and when I got pregnant a year later, and from that same tube, I was like, oh my god, I should never really ever doubt my gut feeling. And I know
Yeah.
the fear and everything else, or the noise around us, can cause that to doubt it. uh, and the fear specifically, I think the fear is very something that can do that. But it's about teaching ourselves to go back within, isn't it? And um, yeah, that is so important, the inner wisdom, because then you can filter
It
things.
really
You don't
is.
have to try the whole everything single thing in the world. You try what your own body needs, or what it is that you need right now. Yeah, I think that's important.
Well, I always say this is kind of like something that I've always felt, and it's kind of, I guess, like something that I find myself repeating, is that all roads lead to the light. And sometimes we can do a huge detour and resist, 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 and we're just going to push back that road
Yeah,
that leads to the light. I look at the vessels, the blood vessels, all of them lead to the heart. eventually.
Yeah,
It all leads the blood back to the heart. Some of them are further out and some of them are more direct, and it's the same kind of thing with
I
us.
like that
I think
analogy. I
that
like that.
our bodies are such a great reflection of just our lives and how things work, and we can either flow with it and allow
Hmm.
it and relax into it, and then that will actually get us there faster, or we can fight it
Mm.
and slow it down, and that will take a little longer. It'll eventually still lead to our personal growth and our journey,
Yeah.
and ultimately like our dreams or our calling. I call it a calling because it's something that you are called to do, and you know that it's there. And you had mentioned before, which I thought was really powerful, that you knew you were meant to be a mother. You felt it.
Mm.
And I don't think that feeling is a random thing. I think it's there for a reason. I think that that is your highest self pointing you to a way that you're actually meant to go.
Yeah. No, I 100% believe. And you know what? When and then I start connecting with my daughter way before she was born. Well, way before, like obviously during that time. Um, and it's incredible because it just proved to me that it was real, you know. But yeah, that gut feeling, that knowing I would be a mom, that was more than just wishing, honestly. This was
Hmm.
ingrained inside me
Yeah.
from like a long time ago. The fact that I always, even like I used to tell my friend, I'm gonna have a daughter first. I don't know why, don't ask me, but I know. And I still think
Yeah.
now I'm 45 and I still think I'm going to have a boy coming up, and I'm putting everything in place for him to come. But I've been connecting with my daughter before that. And the funny thing is, you know, kids, children these days are very, very open. They very, and believe it or not, she told me one day when she was 3 or 4 year old, 3 or 4, I think. She described me exactly. She described me exactly when we used to meet in my meditation, and I used to connect with her as a baby soul. Um, and it was her with a little boy that I always visualize them two together. And so I used to go always in that safe space, and I learned how to connect with the baby spirits, basically. But the funny thing was, one day she said at the table, "You remember, Mummy, when we used to go on that swing with my baby brother?" And
Oh my God, I got the
and
chills.
I was like, "What?" You went to the nursery? Did you have a friend or something? I tried every angle that she could mean, and she was speaking well. It's just that I was like, I don't understand what she's saying, because it can't be that. And she described it so much. And then I said, "But you don't have a younger brother." And she said, "But it was." And then I said, "Well, was Daddy with us?" "No, it was just us three. You remember?" But yeah, it was crazy. And then she said, "It was a dream, Mummy. You remember a dream?" And then she started talking
Wow.
about something random and completely switched the conversation. And I was like, hold on, can we go back to this? And
That's
yeah, so
amazing.
like
Wow.
open. And she also said randomly one day to us, to me and my partner, she said, "I'm the one who choose you as my parents." And
Wow.
when it's not something that you have taught her, or you've told her, or how does she come up with this stuff? It's crazy to me. It's not crazy because I believe it, but it's just confirming what
Yeah.
you know. But it's kind of
Right.
weird to hear it from the child's, mouth, and it's like, wow.
Because you usually know it on a very innate personal sense. It's more of a sense. You usually don't see
Yeah.
it kind of in the material world as much. It's like, sometimes the knowing can be something that is there, but is not typically in our world
Yes.
seen right there in front of
Which is
us.
incredible to see it, isn't it? To hear it and to be having that confirmation. So, um, but
Yeah.
yeah, just to say that, yeah, that is very real too. And as much as we know, conception is so much more than, as I said earlier, the sperm meet the egg. It's so many different aspects, the right environment for your mind, for your body and everything. But it's also about divine timing, and it's also about, it's the journey of your own soul. It's your journey of your partner. It's three souls involved in this process.
Yes.
So we have to remember that it's not just us as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too sacred for a checklist,
Mm,
and I think that it's become such a checklist, but it's too sacred.
yes.
It has to have another element added and sprinkled in to the journey
Yeah.
than just the physical, like what to eat. With it's the same thing when you're together with a partner that you love, and if you make it a checklist to the finish line and you're not spending time with the romance, the energy, that
Hmm.
connection, and making it all physical, to me it's just another example of
Yeah.
that.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's a whole holistic, and that's how the best way,
Yes.
holistic process, but in really every sense of the term. And yeah, and yeah, I think it's important to remember that, but also to give ourselves compassion, because we know, as a woman, we just blame ourselves so much. What we're doing wrong, what we didn't do right, what's happened. But yeah, it's about also coming back to self-love, compassion, and understanding there's more to it than just what we can do things, of course, and but it's I also hate the fact that it becomes very medical. As soon as you become this you have this diagnosis, it becomes very medical, and you forget about, well, you don't forget, but you're not really told about the holistic part of it. And yeah, you get lost into that process sometimes. So I think that's why, for me, I also created um, what I've created to help other women, because I want them to come back to themselves. And it's not just, it is fertility, of course, and we want to get ultimately to for them to get pregnant and keep the pregnancy, but it's also about coming back to themselves. And even if you
Yes.
are doing medical, it's not about not doing IVF or not doing medical. I absolutely understand that you have to do it sometimes. It's about, you can combine both. You know, you, you,
Yes,
you can
100%.
you
I,
can
I say the same
you
thing.
can prepare
And the medical's there, it's
yeah,
amazing. It could be a miraculous to have the medical
yeah.
aspect there.
Yeah, you can prepare, it's about preparing the soil, isn't it? The environment for your pregnancy to thrive. All
Hmm.
your
You could work them both
sorry?
to support one
Yeah,
another
yeah,
100%.
yeah, exactly. And it's about, so for me, yeah, it's whether you try naturally or medically, it's about coming also back to everything, the holistic process. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I find it really interesting that you talked about meditation, how that ultimately is how you connected with your daughter,
Yeah.
is through meditation. We cannot connect like effectively with our higher selves without getting quiet. We need to get quiet in order to do that because our highest selves are not going to be found outside of
No,
us.
exactly.
And we're always going to be distracted when we're focused on the outside, and sometimes kind of leaving that, even if it's for 5-10 minutes, preferably 20, and connecting inwards, that's when you can really connect. And interestingly enough, I believe that I manifested really a lot of my life, and there were like things that I manifested that were like pretty insane. Even my husband, I described him, like, and a month later I met him,
Wow.
but described his personality. And I told people about it, and a lot of people did the same thing. They're like, it's not working for me. And then I look back and I finally realized kind of the secret ingredient that I sprinkled in at the time, which is I started meditating around that time. And what I think happens is meditation can prime your nervous system, which is really a system of information
Hmm.
and connection
Yeah.
and information to and from. So from within you out to the universe, from the universe out inside to you through wisdom, guidance, alignment. And it's not easy to manifest if you're not in that state of alignment and your nervous system is not receptive. This kind of like highway of information is not receptive and primed in a balanced state. And so when you talked about how you connected with your daughter, it was like you went into meditation. You got people talk about downloads all the time.
Mm.
Like that's when you're opening yourself, or you're giving yourself that opportunity to connect with this divine energy.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree with you. For me, visualization is a big part of what I do for myself, for again, for the woman I help. But and I actually read a book. I'm reading a book about visualize. It's called Visualization, and I love it. I'm always been about law of attraction and all of that manifestation. And but visualization, it says in that book exactly what you've said, won't work if you've got a busy mind. I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't have thoughts, but it's about calming your nervous system first.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
breathing, meditation, and just stop for a second, just go inwards. um, I think actually even go sometime when you stop as well, it also help with the emotion healing, isn't it? I couldn't be processing emotion if I'm just like going around and doing all those
Yes.
things and be like, so no, you've got to stop. So, but the same thing for visualization or for meditation, like when I was doing the connection, absolutely right. First of all, I would always first calm my nervous system, breathe, be in the moment, because if you could be on high alert, on thing, it's very hard. My connection wouldn't work. I couldn't visualize anything.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for me. But visualization, it's a whole different again thing, but it's so powerful for me. It's I do hypnosis as well, and I think it helps as well the mind to settle. Um, but it's very powerful. The brain, as you know, it doesn't know what's real and what's not real. So the more you feed, I've manifested the same as you said about your partner. I did the same with mine, and I believe I manifested so much in my life. um, but I know it's not always easy. I'm not saying it's easy. When you go through that time of doubts and also all the noise, everything that you're being told, and I think that's why it's so important to, for me, when I talk about mindset, it's not about being positive. It's not about not being stressed. It's not about being perfect. You can't do none of that. It's okay to be stressed, and it's normal. It's human. Perfection doesn't exist. But it's about getting the right tool to learning how to treat your mind, but also nourish your thoughts. So it's about, for me, negative thoughts are going to happen, but what can you do to introduce new thoughts? What can you do to be more in control of those thoughts and actually reframe some of them? I think that's very important. But yeah, I'm saying that because we talk about, yeah, it's all good to say, oh yeah, do that, visualize and that. And of course, you're going to have those emotional, crazy moments. It's all going to happen. But you can, if you allow
Mm-hmm.
time each day, okay, let's do this strategy where you're not going to think about the worst thing that can happen. Just focus on visualizing, breathing, calming the nervous system. Allow maybe even if it's 15 minutes a day, just for this, 15 minutes to try to raise your vibration and be like, what can I do that actually shifts my mood today? Is it listening to my best
Yeah.
soundtrack? Is it going in nature? So it's about leaving space in the day to actually not do the same thing over and over again, which is thinking that, or even like go on Facebook or somewhere and just look at the worst story that can happen, because actually it feeds your mind with all those things. And then, yeah, that is also mindset bad nourishment, if I can call it that way. I don't know if I make myself clear, but yeah.
Yeah, and it is, I find sometimes it could be a difficult topic to talk about because it is so abstract and words are a little more analytical. So to try to bridge that, a lot of times when people have mystical experiences, one of the most frustration that they like coming across is that they can't get it out clearly. They can't verbalize it, that these experiences are so vast that it's hard to really describe. But I think that that's why it's so important to really sit there and become with it and like kind of be with it
Yeah.
and feel it and experience it. I find for me, what's always worked is really non-resistance. Even things that happen that you don't like, to just be with it and to look at it in a more neutral light, because it's true. A lot of many teachers have said this, that most of events in life are actually more neutral than we make them to be, because we assign meaning to things.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's why you'll find 10 different people and you'll find 10 different meanings to the same exact circumstance.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's such a complex journey, but I think it's every little helps, but it's one step at a time as well.
Yeah.
And when I think the what I don't like as well is that when we talk about mindset, or when we talk about mindset with fertility, um, it's often talk about like, oh well, you have to be positive, or it's not really explained in that way, that why is it actually in that book Visualize, they talk about mindset, and they said, oh, we talk about looking after our body, but the mind is half of our health, so why are we not really looking into it and caring for it as much? um but I think when it comes to fertility, for me, mindset, just want to say that it's not just being positive. It's about it's the lens for which we see our reality, and the way we feed it is like our belief. It's like our stories, our experience. It's our identity. It's the values. Is the that's what it's the thoughts that we do. That's the behaviors. It's all linked, isn't it? The way you think, the way you feel, the way you act, there, the behavior. So yeah, for me, it's so important to look at that as well, and to not think it's not just about being positive or anything like that. So that's another thing I've
Yeah.
learned.
And I think processing emotions means you have to validate your emotions and kind of validate your experience in that moment. And so allowing that, I think, is a huge part of the process.
Yeah, 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 it definitely is. I didn't talk about acupuncture as well. I know you do acupuncture. That's also something that I thought was very helpful for me, acupuncture. Um, but yeah, if I can, if I can advise anything, I would say definitely start going back within, and allow some time to go back within and just calm the nervous system. And it's about, and it's not just, as I said, one size fits all. It's about what is right for you. When I do my when I work with my clients, I never it's not it's always tailored to the person. Some person might hate journaling, some person actually not good at doing hypnosis for too long, some person are not good at visualizing. So it's really about what works for you, to really help your nervous system and your mindset and the way you're going to show up every day.
Mhm. Absolutely. So if people are hearing this and they want to find you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so they can email me. I mean, I'm sure you probably leave my details there. So
Yes, all your information is going to be in the episode
yeah,
notes.
yeah, yeah. It's mindset body and soul, mindset_body and soul for the Instagram. So you can contact me on Instagram. You can check my website also. I have free discovery call. Happy to discuss, see how I can help, see if we fit. Of course, because it's a two-way street. See if anything that I say resonates. I help women that basically, I mean, usually women, either they try everything and medically nothing is wrong, so it's unexplained a lot of times, and they want to see what else they can do. So we really go with the whole part. So I always advise for the body side of it, which means that the nourishment, the gut health, the acupuncture, this is something that I would always advise. That's not my speciality. But what I do is I make sure that
Mhm.
we treat everything in the body. And we look at the mindset, we look at the emotion, we look at the inner child, we look at the energy, we look at the womb healing. And we really look at self love, compassion, and all of that. So, yeah, I help women. I do bundles, I do longer programs, and it's also very close to my heart to help women after loss. So, I have also a program after loss and also pregnancy. Um, Once you've had loss, or pregnancy after loss, or pregnancy after birth trauma, there's also something like that. So, but yeah, I'm happy to go on the discovery call and answer any questions.
Wonderful, Leatitia. This is a great conversation, and thank you so much for sharing your journey and really sharing your wisdom and all of the wisdom that you've accumulated throughout this
It's my
journey.
pleasure.
So, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you so much.